your host, Salena Santibañez Guipzot. Our organization, Growing Empowered Together, or GET for short, connects the dots between personal experiences and public policy in order to motivate more young people to vote and volunteer in Texas. Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a empoderarnos juntos. Thank you for joining us. Today's feature highlights two young San Antonio professionals who are working to make a better world for us all. Beto Altamirano, or Beto for short, is CEO and co-founder at CityFlag, an interactive social network for 311 services. Beto holds a degree in government from UT Austin. He's a contributing writer on national and international journals and is a recipient of the MacArthur Foundation grant. Welcome, Beto.
Thank you, Salena.
Sara Beesley earned a bachelor's in drama from Trinity University and a master's in nonprofit management from Our Lady of the Lake. She sits on the SA Tomorrow Implementation Steering Committee, as well as other local leadership committees, including Leadership SAISD. Sara serves as director of the Mitchell Lake Audubon Center, a 1,200-acre wildlife refuge and nature center located in South San Antonio. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you.
Let's begin by learning a little bit more about the work you both do. Sara, what is the mission of the Mitchell Lake Audubon Center?
So Mitchell Lake's mission is to connect people to nature through conservation and community education focused on birds and their habitats.
Wonderful. And describe a little bit about the Mitchell Lake Center to someone who's never been there before.
So our center is located just south of 410. It's actually the southernmost exit off of 410, and we have 7.5 miles of walking and driving trails. So it's actually one of the most accessible sites in San Antonio. We have lots of things to do: scavenger hunts, explore backpacks for kids, and we do programs and workshops for kids of all ages.
Wow. Wonderful. And so what's on the city's property? Like if you were just to look at a map, what would they see?
They would say a 600-acre lake, and then they would see about 300 acres of our wetlands and ponds and another 300 acres of our grasslands and woodlands. We have 4 different habitats, which attracts over our 300 species of bird throughout the year.
That is, because I don't even think a lot of people realize that something like that is here in San Antonio, let alone south side of San Antonio.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, we're a little bit of a hidden gem, so we're trying to get the word out more.
Wonderful. Well, tell us about your interactions with the public at Mitchell Lake. What is most people's initial reaction when they come to an event or the property for the very first time?
A lot of people's reaction is, just like yours, they didn't know that we existed or that we were even there. And so they're just blown away by just the beauty. We have native wildscaped gardens all around the house. We have an old historical home that's on the site that was actually moved from the McNeil Museum. Okay. And so just all the different things that they can do and just how beautiful it really is out there, hidden among everything else.
This is something that the whole family can enjoy and to beat the heat.
Absolutely. Well, it's not necessarily to beat the heat because it is all outside. Mm-hmm. But it's to get outside into these natural areas that there's not a lot of natural area inside city limits. Mm-hmm. And so we're one of the few that's natural. It's not just green space or grass, but it's this natural area.
Very exciting. I can't wait to visit it as well as much as Beto can. Beto, can you briefly describe what the CityFlag 311 mobile application does?
Definitely. So CityFlag is a local civic technology company, and we develop solutions for government. So we want to innovate the public sector, right? And so we developed the first social network for 311 services, which we'll be implementing here in San Antonio, and we're actually in the process of implementation. So we'll soon see that application come out to the public.
Exciting. Do you have an actual date, a release date?
Yeah, towards late August, early September. So,
okay, exciting. Yeah. And how will people benefit from using your app to communicate with the city government versus just the old way of picking up the phone and dialing 311?
Definitely. So when I was organizing communities, I was knocking on doors, talking to people, and I realized that people wanted a visual reference of the things that they saw in their neighborhood, that they wanted to report to their government. Mm-hmm. And so with our application, in less than 45 seconds, you can take a picture of a pothole, graffiti, vandalism, and you can upload that information directly to 311 call center. So how would they benefit? Well, I think it's more of a complement, right, to the processes that the city of San Antonio has right now. I believe that if you can utilize technology, right, to empower people, you can have a better response. And I think that people want to be part of the public policy making process. They want some type of tool, and I think that's what we're providing.
Something tangible.
Yes, definitely.
Well, GET encourages young people to become more civically engaged and to volunteer in their communities, because we understand that the community as a whole benefits from shared responsibility and caring. And we know that volunteers are more likely to vote. Sara, how important are volunteers to the Mitchell Lake Audubon Center? How many volunteers have you seen the last year? Can anyone be a volunteer, or do they need special skills?
Wow, there is no way we could complete our mission or even do any of the work that we do without volunteers. We only have 4 full-time staff and 1 part-time staff, and to manage 1,200 acres, we absolutely need help from our volunteers to help manage the trails, manage our gardens. We have a partnership with several organizations in town to help us with that are all volunteer organizations. We have about 5,000 hours that were contributed over the last year by volunteers.
Wow, that's all of that in kind or all of that support is.
Now I want to volunteer.
Please. We have an application online so that they can go to our website and sign up there.
And so are these applications something that are available in Spanish, or is that something you're working on as a center as well to really fit that bilingual culture that we have here in San Antonio?
Right now they are not available in Spanish, but they're welcome to call our center, and we do have 2 staff members that are on staff that do speak fluent Spanish.
Wonderful, that's good to hear. Well, Sara, the Audubon has championed the concept of developing a trained group of volunteers known as citizen scientists. Can you explain what a citizen scientist is and why are they important?
So we're actually moving away from the term citizen scientist because we realize that's not as inclusive as it could be. There are a lot of people, not just in San Antonio, but across the country that are not necessarily, citizen is a difficult word for them because that may not apply to them.
That's true.
So we're actually moving towards the term community scientist because it's also more representative of what they are. They're contributing to their community and from the community as scientists. And so they do what, for us, we have a monarch garden, for example. We're part of that Monarch Champion City initiative. And so we have a monarch garden. We have these community scientists who come out and count eggs, they count the larvae, and then we do report that back. And so that contributes hugely to saving the monarchs, for example.
How does Mitchell Lake staff use the data on wildlife populations collected by community scientists to inform their management decisions?
So for example, for the monarchs, we send that off to a different organization who's collecting that data. For us, we monitor the bird populations, and we've been doing it, and other community scientists have been doing it for the Christmas bird count, for example, for hundreds of years. And so the National Audubon Society actually came out with a climate report in 2014 to look at past trends and then also take into account other, data that have been collected and look at future trends and how things will be changing from now until 2080.
So really, between the community scientists and all of the volunteers and so forth, you wouldn't have this data available to do the research needed?
Absolutely. There aren't enough scientists and staff members or anything to, be all over the place at all the time. So these community scientists are huge.
So you made reference to that report that was done, but what do bird populations tell us about the health of our environment?
So birds really are that canary in the coal mine, if you've ever heard that phrase. And so they are excellent indicators of how healthy your environment and ecosystem are. So a great example is if you're downtown and all you're seeing are grackles and pigeons, then and there isn't a great diversity of birds, then it may not be the best environment. But if you go out to a natural area, whether it's us or a different park, and you see all these different birds like cardinals and white-winged doves and everything else, then it's maybe a bit of a healthier ecosystem because you don't just have the diversity of birds, but you have the diversity of plant life as well.
What do you say to people who believe that conservation of the environment is not important to them personally, to their families or their communities?
Well, we only have one planet, and so we really do need to take care of it. There's only so much room to, fill up with landfill, or to, our oceans are full of plastic, and so, we need to take care of them. One little thing that they can do, for example, is there's reduce and reuse before recycle, and then recycling is also huge if you're not able to take those smaller steps. I don't go anywhere without my reusable water bottle, for example. Not using plastic straws and plastic lids, little things like that. Anyone can do their little part because everyone's little part really adds up to big parts.
Jumping to you, Beto, give me an idea or a definition of what is digital citizenship? What does that consist of?
So look, Salena, when we look at smart cities, the definition, right? We look at a lot of companies, big companies, trying to sell, technology to government, right? When in reality, sensors are not the biggest producers of data. It's actually citizens, people, right? So people are the biggest producers of data, right? And the internet gave us, the ability to create our own content as people, right? And I think cities should be inclusive as well. They should allow us to create that content. How are we going to create or produce that data? Through participation. The idea here is to connect citizens and government and to, bring down those obstacles of communication. I think that if we enable the citizen can participate more, and the civic engagement, could be nurtured that way.
I couldn't agree more, especially just with communication across the board, with government looking to be more transparent with its constituents. This obviously offers another tool in their toolbox. Do you think that increased digital citizenship will lead to increased civic engagement in ways other than just using your app, such as volunteering? Could it lead to an increase in voter turnout or cause apathy toward the ever-changing city leadership?
Definitely. I think this is an entry for that, right? For participation. There's a tagline, right? It's called from URLs to IRLs, right? From in real life action. So how do you take, like the online engagement and turn it into physical action, right? And also how do government, right, turn, from standing online to clicking online, right? How do they produce that technology? So I think it's a convergence, right, of efforts from behalf of the government and people, right? And I think that, technology platforms are going to provide that ability for people to actually start getting involved. And once they get involved and they have a taste of what civic engagement really means, who knows, maybe they could even run for office one day.
And I think that's something we all share here, is the need for just getting people out, right? As a city, as in our age group, as small business owners, as a director, just getting people involved and getting connected.
We need more millennials to get involved.
Exactly. And so you mentioned that the app is going to potentially come out in August, September, Beto, but what are you going to do with the just the following of people who may not know how to use this app, or may have language barriers, or just even accessibility? And I'll give you kind of a background here, is that the east side itself does not have access, or the majority of homes do not have access to internet in their home themselves, or even have a home computer. And then the phones that they do have, they might actually be government issued phones. And I'm not saying this is all, but it is the bridge that we need to gap, the digital bridge. So
I agree.
What do you think?
I'm a strong advocate. Yeah, I'm a strong advocate for the digital divide. I think we should, centralize efforts, to diminish that divide here in San Antonio, for example.
Wonderful. And I just as you were talking about that, I couldn't help but to think about off of Walters, the neighborhood I live in. They're building the biblioteca, and the biblioteca is going to be the largest branch on the east side.
Definitely.
So I can only envision, Beto, you having a kiosk, or doing tutorials or something like that specifically there at the biblioteca, so that individuals who don't have that access can then not only learn to utilize your application, but have access to what they need in terms of digital.
Yes, that's part of one of our campaigns. We call it the Digital Brigades.
Okay.
We're going to go to different parts of the city. We're going to divide it in quarters. So we're going to tackle each quarter in every 4 months and 3 months, and we hope to educate the masses, right, on how to utilize the application. And also we hope that we can have access to some of those kiosks that you're talking about that can provide high-speed internet for the public.
If not, we'll certainly have to talk about that offline. Beto. Will the app be free for anyone to download and use on their smartphone? So of course, iOS and Android, or will they be compatible?
Definitely. So this is a product by the City of San Antonio, right? Created by CityFlag. The platform is going to be free for everyone on iOS and Android, so anyone can download the application and start using it as soon as it comes out.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. We know that the civic engagement works best when everyone is involved, because problems and the solution to those problems belong equally to everyone as a whole in our city, right? Beto, is the CityFlag 311 app for the city of San Antonio bilingual? Can people write their comments in Spanish? ¿Será bilingual esta nueva aplicación de Ciudad de San Antonio conocido como CityFlag 311? ¿Pueden las personas escribir sus comentarios en español?
Yeah, so the application itself, the 1.0 version that will come out soon, is going to be in English, but the City of San Antonio is already working, right, to produce the Spanish version, right? So it's a 301 app, right, and it's a public application for everyone to use. And I feel like, yes, you're right. When we look at the LEP standards, right, Spanish is one of the languages that is used here in San Antonio. A lot of people speak Spanish, so why not have a bilingual application? So we will see that application as well. Cuando estudiamos, ¿no?, el mercado aquí en San Antonio, sabemos que hay una comunidad que habla español, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cómo podemos nosotros, verdad, trazar o producir un producto que también sea en español? Con la ayuda de la ciudad de San Antonio. Entonces, la ciudad de San Antonio sabe que necesita producir una aplicación también en español. Entonces lo vamos a ver en los próximos, o sea, esta versión, la primera que va a salir, va a ser en inglés, pero meses después vamos a ver la versión en español, porque tiene razón, Salena. O sea, es importante tener la aplicación de los lenguajes.
Qué bueno, Beto, qué bueno. So, Beto, with tens of thousands undocumented immigrants in San Antonio, 53,000 in 2015,
Yes.
And may feel uncomfortable interacting with the city government, can undocumented immigrants use your app to interact with the government without fear of being reported to ICE? Más de 10,000 inmigrantes viven en San Antonio, 53 en 2015, y tal vez sienten una desconfianza de interactuar con el gobierno de la ciudad. ¿Pueden un inmigrante indocumentado usar tu aplicación para interactuar con el gobierno sin miedo de ser reportado a ICE?
Look, in my personal opinion, right, SB4 is going to cause a lot of anxiety and fear. And I feel that whenever you have people interacting with your government, they already have some sense of uncertainty, because maybe it's their first time interacting with government. When I was organizing communities, I motivated them to actually call 311. They didn't want to do it. But for whatever reason it is, you got to respect people's opinions and ideas. With SB4, I feel that you're going to promote anxiety and fear for those that are their first time interacting with government. Look, the application itself, you can report anonymously. So you can make an anonymous report. And I feel that that's going to be more welcoming as well for those who are undocumented to actually make a report of something they see in their neighborhood. We want to have, neighborhoods that are inclusive, productive, and progressing, right? We need to have a healthy ecosystem. And that comes with, covering those potholes, the graffiti, the lighting. And so we welcome also as well people who have an undocumented, relative or undocumented people to actually make reports and to actually communicate with the government. And they're going to be able to do it because it's anonymous. So, or anyone who feels, uncertain about, contacting their government with their own personal information, they're going to be able to do it anonymously as well. Yeah.
En español, su respuesta.
Sí, bueno, obviamente que sabemos que el SB4 va a causar mucha ansiedad en la comunidad. Y ya de por sí hay muchos ciudadanos y gente, ¿verdad?, que batalla a la hora de contactar a su gobierno, ya sea porque tiene un cierto miedo o inconsistencia en cómo se han resuelto las cosas de tal manera con la policía o con el gobierno. Entonces ya de por sí hay un limitante. Ahora, si queremos nosotros que la gente utilice la aplicación y contacte a su gobierno y encima de eso está SB4, va a haber un limitante aún mucho más fuerte para el usuario. Entonces lo que hicimos nosotros es crear anónimo. Entonces tú puedes reportar cualquier tipo de incidente que tú veas en tu colonia, etcétera, y lo puedes reportar anónimo. Y eso te va a dar un poquito más de entrada y te va a invitar a que utilices la aplicación, porque eso es lo que queremos, ¿no?
Exactamente. Gracias. So very much, I think of like the Nextdoor app where you can
Exactly.
you can only see the name of your street, not so much the address or at least people outside.
Not
in your
even.
neighborhood.
When you sign in the application, you don't have to sign in with you don't have to put in your address or anything. You just put in your email and your name, and that's it. And then your zip code. Your zip code is important, so we can see, what district in the city is being more affected towards what issues that are at hand.
Wonderful, thank you,
Yeah,
Beto.
yeah.
Sarah, you describe yourself as equity, diversity, and inclusion cohort with the National Audubon Society. What does that mean?
So we are a group of change agents that have been selected across the country that work for the National Audubon Society. And traditionally, Audubon has been a older, white, male-driven organization. And so we understand that that's not what America looks like anymore. That's not what the United States looks like. And so it has now become a diverse country. And so we really want to be able to reflect that, not just in our staff, but in who we serve, in our boards, everything like that. And so we're starting at Mitchell Lake, not just with the staff. We actually have one of the most diverse staffs in Audubon, but then also just with our board. We've revised our bylaws and have totally shifted the way that we onboard our board members and recruit, just to make sure that we're really reflecting the community of San Antonio.
Wonderful, that's exciting, because that just trickles down from the top down.
Absolutely.
It reflects to
That's
the
the
community
goal.
that you serve. Wonderful. And so the Audubon has several programs in place that invite young people to learn more about conservation and wildlife. Can you describe a couple of those most important popular programs and explain why the Audubon is so focused on including young people?
Absolutely. Two of our most popular, one for families and young people, is going to be Nature at Night, where they're able to register and come out and do night hikes and explore what urban wildlife is like, and urban wildlife, especially at Mitchell Lake, and different animals. It's probably one of our most popular. We'll have up to 150 people come out for that. We also do field trips that we partner with schools on, and they come out. SAWS actually is now focusing all their scholarships and grants to teachers at Mitchell Lake. So teachers are able to apply for $1,000 grants, and they can apply that to coming out to Mitchell Lake. And so we do STEM-focused outdoor field trips in nature, so the kids actually are able to do, take data on their own and then use that and apply that.
And how do you measure your progress as you work to broaden the demographics?
We really look at who comes through our door, who our board is, and we also look at who we're serving in the different school districts and make sure we're serving not just the north side or the more affluent districts or charter schools, but really making sure we're focusing on our local school districts as well, and turning those conservationists, starting them young. You're not going to care about your environment as you get older unless you start when you're younger.
And you mentioned at the very beginning that it's accessible, that it's something that's really close by. A lot of people think of something 1,200 acres that has to be outside of 1604 and beyond.
No, absolutely no. It takes me, my husband works far north, so we kind of live on the far northwest side. It takes me maybe 30 minutes. It took me, 20 minutes to get there from downtown. It's amazing, and it feels like you're hundreds of miles away, and really it takes 15 minutes.
That's exciting. It is a bijou, a jewel in our city. That's wonderful. Beto, technology is a male-dominated field, but your business requires workers with a variety of different types and skills. What are you doing to include women in your business model?
So we're a Latino-owned business. Our co-founders are Latinos. To include women in the process, right? Because we want to make our company as diverse as it could. We're interviewing only female CTOs. All our interns are women, and our graphic design are all women. And so we want to have this diversity, right? And we want to make the experience more inclusive.
That's wonderful. With us being 51% of the population.
Definitely, yes. Yes.
I'm glad you're taking us into consideration, and that's going to show not only in the product that you deliver, but ultimately the community you serve.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Beto. Broadcast the voices of young community leaders so that they can educate other Texas millennials about why it's so important to get informed, get involved in their communities, and get out to vote. But one of our favorite parts of any Get interview is learning more about how our young guests grew into such well-respected leaders. Sara, your background is in performance art, and yet you work as a director of an Audubon Center. Was there a defining moment where you suddenly knew that you wanted to become, or was there a natural progression to where you are now?
Everything that I've done up until now has led to this. I really knew when I was going out there for my interview and had to walk through a cloud of butterflies that was where I was going to find my home. And it was really just being able to preserve that was where I knew I was going to land.
Wonderful. Well, you can't, walking through a cloud of butterflies, that would definitely.
Can't say no to that.
Yes, that would definitely bring me
Count
back.
me in.
Beto, do you have a personal story that explains what motivated you to want to become more civically engaged?
Definitely. So in high school, I was not, civically engaged. But one day I got a call from my dad telling me that he will not make it home that night or any other night. He was being deported, and I was 18 years old. From there on, I knew that politics play an important role in everyone's life. I started getting more involved. I worked in the Texas legislature, then I worked in the U.S. Senate for Senator John Kerry. I came back to Texas, and I started organizing communities again. So that's how I got involved, right, in developing CityFlag. because I wanted to hear people. I wanted to listen to their concerns.
It is our experiences that produce us, but the idea of where you were and to where you are now, it isn't a straight line.
What I recommend, people, is to explore, their passions and to ultimately, merge their passions together, and they can even become entrepreneurial about it. But I do insist people should become entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs of their own career, not necessarily come up with a product or business idea, but entrepreneurs of their careers. Reinvent yourself multiple times.
So Sara, are there any special or personally rewarding moments you can recall that made you feel like your work at the Audubon Center has made the world a better place?
Yeah, just seeing those kids' faces when they go out there, especially for the field trips. We've had kids ask us, when do you let the animals out of their cages? And it's both heartbreaking and amazing for them to be able to really see animals in their natural habitat for the first time, but also the fact they've never seen animals in their, a frog or a turtle out on its own. So it's incredible to be able to give that to them and to keep that and preserve it for them, and hopefully for their kids as well.
It's amazing. That's an amazing experience right there.
It is. It's. I'm choking up now just thinking about it.
It really is. I ask you, what are you doing to make this world a better place, or Audubon? But it's the exposure. It's the exposure from the technology side and the exposure from the wildlife outdoors that we're giving to younger kids and our younger generations. Both of you have changed the direction of your work after college. Both of you have a long list of accomplishments and ongoing civic engagement goals. If you were to advise people starting their own careers, what would you tell them about approaching their own career choices as a work in progress? Beto?
Be entrepreneurial about your career. Reinvent yourself many times. Look, when I see the most successful people that I talked to and interacted with, they're still figuring out what they want to do in life. I think that's what life is about, right? It's about finding your own journey, not comparing yourself to others, and you will find success. You got to be strategic about how you find that success, of course. You can not just follow your passions and you're going to find success. You got to be strategic about how you find that passion and how you merge your passion with something that produces a good outcome, a social impact, and ultimately, financially rewards you, right? I think everyone can find that niche. You just have to explore. And again, you're never going to be completely satisfied with something that you want to do in life, because you want to always reinvent yourself. You want to grow. And I think that's the only way to grow, to learn and learn from others and to go out there and experience it yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sara, for yourself, because you went from, drama to now being drama to director.
Yes. Well, a lot of it would say it's the same thing. It's pretty much, herding cats. But it's really, your path chooses you. I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I haven't lost my passion for theater. I just direct it in a different direction by being a supporter and a patron. And so my husband's still in theater, so I really can't get away from it. But, I mentioned everything I've done has led up to this, whether it's been doing, Shakespeare festivals outside, and so I've been used to working with elements. Or it's been, working for Hyatt and doing programming for them. So now I program at my center. And it was all these little tiny bits have now led up to what I do now. And I don't know if I'll be doing what I do now forever. I hope I do, because it's pretty amazing. But it's, your passion finds you sometimes, and it's, like you said, being able to be strategic about it and kind of finding, okay, well, what do I love to do, and how can I, be successful at it?
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for sharing your time, thoughts, and experiences with us. We look forward to hearing more great things from both of you in the future. You can learn more about the Mitchell Lake Audubon Center, the CityFlag app, and our organization, Growing Empowered Together, by visiting the websites listed on the screen.